Hi everyone, Agnes here. I've got a success story from Eva, one of the viewers. Now this has got a lot of relationship stuff and self-love, so I'm going to read it to you in Eva's words. Dear Agnes, thank you so much for asking me to share more. The interview with Kamal was so on point and fated that I see it. I especially understood the part of the interview where Kamal talks about exercising the mind and how it relates to taking care of our body and how the mind is more plastic than the body. I related so much to that. It was funny to me that I can laugh about it now, even though none of this was funny in the slightest at the time. I've always been a spiritual person through my 20s and currently 30s. I've been what my daughter would call a self-help addict. I kept relatively healthy with yoga, trying to buy organic food and making food from scratch when I can. Meditating before bed is not the easiest task for me. I must say I'm not great at it at all, but I still try. When I met my person, I felt I was absolutely at my best, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I didn't need him, and it definitely creates a healthy dynamic between two people when neither have codependencies or expectations of one another. This relationship was different than any other I had experienced. It felt mature and balanced and good. It seemed as though this was my person and there didn't seem to be anything that could oppose that. I guess I should give you a little backstory of how we met and became friends. I will call him Paul. Paul and I met online in 2010. He lived about 50 minutes away from me and we would travel to each other's places for dates. And it was nice, we got along, it wasn't serious. We dated for about 8 months. After that, he went away for a while and sort of ghosted me. I tried to keep in touch, but he didn't seem to be interested anymore. Fast forward 3 years. In between those years, he reached out to me a few times, but I would smoothly deflect any of his advances. I was just not into him anymore, which is why he continued to reach out even when he was in relationships. Well, the universe seemed to want us together because in 2014, on July 5th, I went on a date in San Francisco, which is very rare for me because I normally stayed close to home. And on this date, many things happened serendipitously that led Paul to me and for us to meet again after so many years. Fast forward a year and we seemed to still be in honeymoon bliss. Everything was great and I stopped taking care of myself spiritually. I didn't do yoga. I stopped my intention setting and my nightly prayers. I was very happy and so in love. Everything became about us and him, not just me anymore. That's when his work became more important, and to be fair, his job was really demanding and stressful. He was a new cop and a high-ranking officer in the military, so he had 2 jobs. He seemed to change into someone I didn't know anymore, which that profession will do to people. A lot happened between he and I the following 2 years. There was a lot of fighting and a breakup, and I initiated it at the end of 2016 from feelings of neglect and suspicion. I regretted the breakup, which is when I found you, Agnes, and Veronica. I had known Abraham Hicks and other teachers, but when I started to follow your videos and then I found Neville through you, I was hooked again. I began to do the practices and in turn, faith was restored. I became stronger. I climbed out of this mini depression I was in due to the breakup and I was determined to get him back. I got a new job. I completely got out of debt. I was doing okay, but my main focus was mostly getting him back. I see now that it wasn't just to be my happy self again. It was really I just wanted him back. After 3 months, I got him back and I was determined, I tell you, but it wasn't the same. He seemed to be happy and in love, but it was because he was also talking to multiple women, to put it mildly, including a co-worker he had a fling with pretty much immediately after we broke up. After I found out about all the women, I was devastated and I was so torn. I worked so hard to get him back and I felt like the universe brought us together. Why did it have to be like this? He even blamed me for creating this by breaking up with him. In the first place, everything was always my fault, and he was half right. I struggled, and God knows why I still wanted him more than ever in my life. We stayed together for another year because I couldn't let go. It wasn't a perfect year, a lot of fights, but a lot of makeups as well. When we were on a break, he had signed up for a deployment. His battalion was deploying overseas for a whole year. This was a constant feeling in the pit of my stomach. I felt deep down inside this was to be the end of us, and completely manifested just that. I dreamt of him being with other women and leaving me. When he and I fought, he would try to break up with me and I would beg him not to. It was so unhealthy. I was completely pathetic to myself, and of course, since I thought I was pathetic, so did he. A girl even contacted me while he was overseas and told me they had been talking for almost a year before his deployment, and he planned to date her when he got back. She was a sweet soul, and when she found me, obviously on his social media site, she reached out to me and let me know everything and blocked him. Even after that, I still wanted him back. This was the worst feeling ever. I was a former shell of myself. I was obsessed with his life, which was on the other side of the world, and I had decided to move to my sister's house for a year while he was away to go back to school temporarily. I got a part-time job making half of what I used to make. I slept all day long on my days off, and I didn't socialize with anyone. My days revolved around waiting for his daily calls and why he didn't call me, and when he didn't, I'd cry myself to sleep. When he did call, all he did was put me down and make me feel worse about myself. He was never encouraging. There were occasions when he was super sweet and sent me gifts. Usually that was when he could feel I was really low. I went on like this for a whole year. I thought of ending it often. It was the opposite of who I was when we met. He tried to let me down easily many times, and I just didn't want to hear it. The time came for him to come home, and he finally told me that day. He had lied. He had come back a week before, but I suppose it was because he didn't want to see me. I have always had strong intuition and felt this before it had happened. Either way, I was determined to be happy again with my person. I thought it would all go back to normal when he was home. It had only been hard because he wasn't there, I told myself. All deployments are hard, I said. The last week of his coming home, he felt the radar. Oh no, he fell off the radar and he was not replying back much. And when he did, it was vague and short. He called me the night he got back to his parents and pretended he was still traveling. I found out later, of course, and the day came for me to move back into my old place. We had planned from the beginning to spend a few days together at his place. I was driving back from my sister's 5 hours south of my place. He called me when I was a couple of hours away and asked where I was and let him know. I was obviously on my way back to his place and mine, and we lived minutes apart at that stage. He told me firmly he wanted to break up. I tried to plead again and he wasn't listening. I can't force someone to be with me, and I knew it, but I still tried. I was so upset that he didn't even want to see me. It was such a slap in the face. In truth, this was what he had to resort to because I would not listen to him all those other times. I placed all these expectations on him that he couldn't meet. So, when I reached his place, I thought I could still convince him to at least give me a hug. I felt so humiliated. I was standing outside the front door at his place and he wouldn't even see me. I was at my lowest point. I didn't leave. I just sat there on the steps feeling sorry for myself. I was defeated inside already, and this was just too much for me to bear. I mistakenly told my sister whom I'd been staying with, and she told my whole family. So on top of me feeling like a loser, everyone was talking about me, of course, behind my back. My family is not at all what you would call tender-hearted folks. No one would say anything, but I told you so. After that day, I drove 5 hours back to my sister's place to cry. I stayed in bed for a few weeks and just cried and slept. I felt traumatized after what had happened. I decided to go back home because I knew my family couldn't help me emotionally. I was all alone, so I might as well be alone in a place I called home. I didn't have a job, and I was staying at my friend's place, and he was nice enough to have faith that I'd find a job soon. I didn't know how I could pull this through. All I thought about every day and night was what had happened and why. I was still obsessing over him, and I felt utterly unhealthy, mind, body, and spirit. I turned to your videos and Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. One video you posted mentioned at the end about a book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, and that was just how I had felt, like my life depended on it. I looked it up, Read it. At first I thought it sounded way too simple and kind of silly to just drown my mind with this one thing saying I love myself. It really sounded too simple, but you sounded very sure of it. I wish I could remember the video it was referenced on. So that is what I did. The best I could, day and night. All I would say in my head was I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, which turned into I am love. For some reason it felt easier. And I would chant it in the shower, like Kamal said, in everything I did, my inner dialogue would just repeat it over and over. I am love, I am love, I am love, I am love. I didn't get tired of hearing it either. I needed to hear it myself, so say it so badly. I hadn't even realized how much I was missing all of that love for myself. I had been holding back for the past 3 years. When I wasn't saying that mantra, I would listen to the song Queen by Jessie J. I had somehow just transformed myself into this woman who actually loved herself again. I would think a thought like I'm going to make more money than I would have, and guess what? It happened. Within a freaking week, my temp agency paired me with a position and a title I never thought I would have. I was an executive assistant turned senior accountant. I was making way more than I thought I would. I was, however, having a hard time getting Paul off my mind and paired a new mantra, I am love, alongside with some prayers to cast away the demons. I was willing to try anything to stop those obsessive thoughts. And it completely worked. I absolutely forgot what's his name. My days were about work and mindfulness, and I started to take martial arts classes in the evening, and I started pampering myself and tried dating again. Then guess who came back to talk to me? Paul. Started messaging me again, and he was seeing someone. I went back and forth with him about being friends again. I knew I couldn't just be friends, but the pull was strong. We had a powerful connection, and it was hard to block him, which I did a few times. He showed me he wasn't changing much. It had been just 4 months since he had left me, and I started my self-healing journey. And in hindsight, I think the universe was just testing me. Well, spoiler alert, I failed big time. I was tempted by him again and thought I could have him back, and this time it would be different. But I didn't just want him like that. It wasn't that easy. I felt so many conflicting emotions. After everything I'd went through with him, I definitely felt distant, cold, and way more reserved. I wasn't trying to force anything. I thought if he really loved me, he would choose me, and I wouldn't have to fight for him. I had done that enough. Plus, there was still this part of me that was pissed. I was genuinely pissed off at him for who he was. Even though I know I created most of it, I still blamed him a lot and did not have forgiveness in my heart. I slowly let him chit-chat to me on and off for a few months. He was being more open and telling me his ugly truths about himself and his relationship, things I already knew. He was just confirming. After a few months, I caved in and met up with him. I spared all the details. I'll spare all the details, but I caved in and let him back into my heart. He basically got what he wanted, and I was left again, desiring him as in family, kids, the whole nine. But he wasn't even making moves to leave his girlfriend. I gave him an ultimatum after he started pulling back. I told him to decide what he wanted, or I'd tell his girlfriend everything. I wasn't proud, but to be honest, I was going to do that anyway. I felt as much guilt as he did about it. I had always prided myself on my integrity, and this felt bad and karmic. Being in this energy allowed me to realize and believe he might just do this thing called life with me was a mistake, and I finally realized it. I sent the girlfriend a message about everything that had happened and let it all go. She was obviously unhappy, and he didn't reach out to me again after that. I let her know I was done and he wouldn't change as the past had shown. But if he ever did come back, which I'm sure he will, I'll just pass his message on to the next girl he's fooling. Oh, and of course that lesson showed me how much not loving yourself constantly creates your reality. I lost my job the month I started talking to him again. Went to the gym less, and even my home became hard to live in. My inner thoughts created not enough all over again, and just like that I was struggling. But the difference this time is I'm not broken anymore, and I knew why this had all happened, and Paul was no longer the be-all, end-all of my life. I had all the tools inside. No one really had the power to make me feel anything, no one but me. I genuinely moved on and saw him for who he really was. I no longer want that. Even if I could manifest him back a changed man, I just don't want him now. He has hurt me too much, and I just don't want it now at all. I still struggle with thoughts of him. It's still pretty recent. Love doesn't just disappear, but I know I deserve better. And though I still have traumas to work through along with trust issues and need to deal with forgiving him still, it's okay. I'm a work in progress. I feel safe now knowing I have the power and magic inside me to create whatever I want because I love myself so much I know I won't let anyone not worthy in my space. I'm now at the point of just taking care of me, and whoever vibrates high with me can join in, but I'm in no rush for that. I'm enjoying my alone time very much. I'm forever grateful for all my guardian angels, and yes, Veronica, Kamal, Eckhart, Abraham, and my grandpa. I bought Kamal's book in bulk and started love bags. Part of this process is definitely giving back, so I can't in good faith be blessed unless I can help others. I fill a reusable cloth bag with Kamal's book, a water bottle, protein bars, and a blanket. I keep 5 in my car at a time, and I give those to homeless people. I see often. That's beautiful. And around here. And I pray his words can help others the way they've helped me. That is lovely, Eva. Absolutely lovely. I also volunteer and visit hospice patients bi-weekly through an organization I've been with for a few years named Vitus. I missed 1 year while away with my sister. There's a whole different feeling in knowing you can make a difference in someone's day just by being there. Wow, I now work for a new company, an even better career path than before. It's close to home. It was 10 minutes when I wrote this letter months ago, and I manifested it even closer now, 3 minutes away. And everyone who knows Bay Area traffic, you will know that is in itself is pure gold. I also received a promotion. I work in HR and am manifesting a raise. Like I said, it's hard to believe I can laugh about what happened to me now, but that's exactly what it took. Belief. A side note, I'm so grateful for this community on YouTube. There's really no other place where I feel like I'm with others who are like-minded. Thank you so much, Agnes. So much love, Eva. Whew! Well, Eva, that was mind-blowing. I didn't expect that. Beautiful giving of yours at the end. I think that's a lovely thing to put together for people. Beautiful. So, lots of love, everyone. Eva, thank you for sharing your story. I will put the self-love playlist of success stories down below because I know so many of you are still struggling and feeling the pain and the heartache that Eva was in this story. And it's coming to the end of the year in a few weeks, and 2020 is coming up around the corner. And I know that does put a lot more anxiety on many of you and feeling more depressed and lonely. So, sending you lots of love from London, and wow, very touched by that story. Thank you, Eva. Lots of love, everyone. See you in the next YouTube.